I'm Dave Palumbo, founder of Species Nutrition. From my earliest bodybuilding days, I believed in only putting the best in my body. And that lives on in the Species Nutrition line of products. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution.
After working hard at the gym, you need a mattress that works as hard as you do. Spinalign has engineered the perfect mattress for you and your active lifestyle. Don't compromise your recovery with inferior sleep. Order your Spinalign mattress today.
Hey guys, we're super excited to be here at the LA Fit Expo. It's our third year in a row. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be launching a tasty pastry. It's a low-carb Pop-Tart. It's got 3 to 4 grams of net carbs. And we love this show. This is our best place to be in LA.
RX Television on RxMuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions, diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, news, life, whatever's on your mind, it is all on the table. So now bringing Dave Palumbo. Dave, exciting news from Species Nutrition. We have 2 new flavors of amino evolved strawberry watermelon and lemon iced tea. Both those flavors we're introducing in a sale that's going to go live as soon as this episode goes live on YouTube.
You know, I was trying to figure out, first of all, I got to tell you that both flavors are outrageous. I'm an iced tea guy. So the iced tea, you would never know it's not real. You'll be drinking that all day long as if it's just like a regular drink. Obviously, it's our fermented amino acid product that contains all fermented aminos. They're not made from human hair. They're the highest quality amino acids. They're all essential. Obviously, of those essentials, 4 grams of that per serving are branched-chain aminos. What I wanted to do is give you guys a great deal, but I said, you know what? I can't even think of what to charge for these things. I'm just going to give them away for free. So if you spend $60 on speciesnutrition.com, you get either bottle for free. You can pick which one you want, but you must add it to the cart. That's the one caveat. If it's not in your cart when you check out, don't contact us saying you didn't get your free bottle. You have to add it. There's going to be a pop-up. You add the flavor you want to the cart. You get 1 free bottle if you spend $60 or more. If you spend $100 or more, you get free shipping. So my suggestion is try both. But they're really real. I mean, I'm really kind of blown away by how good these flavors are. And like I said, my kids drink them all day long. I'm so happy I got them off regular juice, which has got tons of sugar in it. And you know, they also like to drink the diet soda, which I don't mind giving them occasionally, but this is so much better for them. So for me, not only do I drink it all day long, my wife and everyone in the studio here, but the kids drink it as well. So a terrific product. You guys are going to get to try it for free. It's only till Sunday. So act quickly, spend $60 or more, you get a free bottle of either one of those new amino evolved flavors.
So again, a strawberry, watermelon, and lemon iced tea amino evolved right now at speciesnutrition.com.
I want to say one more thing, Sid, too. You know, when we talk, sometimes I like to point out the absurdities in life. I have a good friend of mine. He's a client of mine, too. I'm dieting him down. So he flew down from New York to Florida, and he brought his diet food. I got him on a diet. So he's eating pumpkin seeds. He likes pumpkin seeds. So I let him use that for his fat source. And they took the pumpkin seeds from him when he went through the security checkpoint in the airport. Now, we know they take liquids, right? They take liquids, gels, you know. I'm like, what the freak do they think you're going to do with these pumpkin seeds? Are you going to blow the plane up with the pumpkin? I mean, what's with the Did the pumpkin seeds contain COVID? I said, I have to understand why did they give you a reason they took your pumpkin seeds? He said it set off an alarm. I said, what alarm could a pumpkin seed possibly set off at the airport? He didn't know. So that's my absurdity of the day. Here you go. I had to throw it out there. I've never heard of anyone losing pumpkin seeds. Peanut butter, yes, it's a gel-like substance. Liquids, you know, drinks, they take from you all the time. I've never heard of them taking pumpkin seeds.
I'm not gonna lie. I was hoping that you were gonna have some like finality to the story. I was hoping they were gonna give some like scientific explanation.
No,
about
they didn't.
varieties, or there's gonna be some.
I'm hoping one of our viewers out there will give me we'll somehow research it. Maybe Leo Rex can research it for us and find out what's in pumpkin. Maybe there's like some chemical that can combine with something else and create an explosive device from pumpkin seeds. I've never heard of
There
it.
you go. That's gonna be the title of the show: the explosive properties of sunflower seeds. We're gonna put explosive in all caps, and then we'll have like a couple of people clickbait.
Yeah,
you didn't talk about that. All right.
Fake news. Let's
go to the questions the first two questions, of course, from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question, Dave, for a bikini competitor, do they need to, quote, fill out in peak week? Not sure how I should go about the week out of my show when it comes to, I guess, that.
You know, I like working with bikini competitors because they really don't need to get like crazy ripped. So what I do is I usually get them as depleted down and as hard as possible, and then I feed them the last week. And depending on, you know, how lean I get them, you know, that really dictates how much I can feed them. So most women do pretty well on just clean carbs, and I can use, you know, rice and potatoes and stuff like that, sweet potatoes. A little bit of oatmeal, so it doesn't bloat them too much, to fill them out. If, however, it doesn't do enough, and they look, sometimes you get, a lot of girls, their lower body will look good, but then their abs are like almost too ripped. I'll give them a little bit of junk food. So I might give them a burger and fries like Thursday night and Friday night, you know, for a Saturday show. Just kind of to, you know, give them a little bit layer of a little bit more roundness and a little more fullness to the muscle. Because you don't want them striated. So if they lose that, if it takes away that striation by just putting a little layer of fluid there, that's the look that they're looking for on stage. So with the bikini girls, I'm not afraid to give them a little too many carbs, as long as it doesn't blur their abs, where it doesn't look, makes their waist look a little fuller, too full. So you got to kind of figure out, and the way you do that is you kind of experiment the weeks before the last week, and you do mini carb ups with them and see how their body responds to carbs, because everyone does differently, obviously. Some women, I give them carbs, they get too lean. Them speeds up their metabolism. Other girls, you give them 2 carb meals and they look like they didn't diet for the last 10 weeks, and you can't figure it out. They're just very water retentive because of carbs. So you have to know who you're working with and how their bodies respond.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app: can eating excess protein cause bloating of one's stomach versus eating more carbs or fats? It seems like my physique, abdomen specifically, looks distended anytime I up protein levels above 250 grams per day.
Yeah, some people just don't digest protein that well. You know, if you overdo it with them, they just don't efficiently break it down, and they have a lot of trouble. It happens with people who I find who eat more difficult digestible protein sources. If you eat a lot of red meat, a lot of times it kind of lays in your stomach. It's hard to digest. Even certain chickens are. Fish usually is pretty easy to digest. Eggs, I find, is easy unless you have an egg allergy or something like that. And if you're using a good high quality whey isolate, like Isolyze or something along those lines, you probably shouldn't have too many digestion issues either, because they're almost like pre-digested. So my suggestion is first change over your protein sources to more easily digestible sources of protein. And then if that doesn't work and you're still getting bloating, you know, from higher sources, higher levels of protein, then you might just not need it, and your body might not. Or you can try digestive enzymes, specifically proteases that will help your body help your body if it's not producing enough of these digestive enzymes to break down the protein. So there's different levels. You have to rule out one thing at a time. My gut tells me that it's probably that you're just not digesting some of the more difficult sources of protein that are a little harder to digest, and you might not be spacing out your meals enough, so to give your body some time to break the stuff down. Or don't eat too much at one meal. I had a client who I was giving about 300 grams of protein during the day over 6 or 7 meals, and then I find out they're eating it all in 4 meals, and they can't get the food down, and they're complaining about their stomach, and they didn't even tell me they were doing it over 4 meals. They're like, well, I just don't have enough time to eat, so I've been doubling up meals. Well, your body's not going to be able to assimilate that much protein, 80 grams in one sitting or 90 grams in one sitting. That's an awful lot. So that sometimes is also an issue.
Let's go to our Instagram questions. Again, if you're not already following us on Instagram, our handle is official_RxMuscle. If you're not already following us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button below, hit the notification bell. You're not going to miss any of our upcoming shows, segments, We have a load of content right now. Last night, Dave did an interview with Bostin Loyd. Actually, one of the first questions that we're going to ask is a spinoff to that interview. Bostin Loyd obviously talking about his kidney health and his situation and exactly how he arrived there, and I guess what he would advise other bodybuilders to do and not to do. We had so I had some fun. I wanted to give a backstory, Dave, because yesterday we posted a troll video in response to Dennis James, and people were wondering, I guess, where did it come from? Are we being salty? No, we're not being salty. Dennis James, who, by the way, we love Dennis James. We're fans of Dennis James. We're buds with him. Dennis James over the weekend, I guess they're trying to sell the Panic Mode shirts. He loaded up his Instagram story with video clips of you and Chris Aceto from the episode of Heavy Muscle Radio where they were talking about Panic Mode. And then you see him wearing the Panic Mode shirt. So obviously they're doubling down on it. So I was like, Dave, it'd be funny. Make it as if you're apologizing to Dennis or whatever like that. But then we'll play the clip, with Chad Nichols essentially admitting that, yes, they went into, quote, panic mode. But nonetheless, we're having fun with it. But we have a lot of good quality content right now, especially, Monday? We posted that side-by-side comparison. Dave, a picture that he posted from 1998. And then somebody else took a side-by-side between that and a picture of Big Ramy. So Dave reacted to that as well. But again, if you like what you're watching, hit the like button, comment below. Obviously, that helps. And as always, we appreciate all of your support.
Maybe we should make Sid a shirt of Dennis and Ramy and Chad. Like, we should have our own panic mode, in other words, design. I could have Jerry Beck draw it up. Might probably be better than their design.
You know what was funny, Dave? It kind of goes to, like, I feel as if the camaraderie that we sometimes always try to have and forge with everybody else. I was looking for the link, so where they're selling their. I was gonna link that video to their shirts.
I was gonna buy a shirt. I don't even know where to get it. Maybe Dennis will still send me one.
Yes. So Dennis, if you're watching, Chad, if you're watching, Big Ramy, I know you're watching.
Yeah.
Send us shirts. Send us the Panic Mode shirts. We will wear it on the next episode.
I'll wear them on the air. Yeah, I'll help you guys sell them. I have no problem.
Tyler sitting, behind the controls, he'll wear one too. Let's go to Big Sexy All Day. And Dave, after this question, if you want to maybe elaborate a little bit more on the interview that he did with Bostin Loyd last night. So the question is, I watched the Bostin Loyd talk about his problems with his kidneys. And if he's going to stop, and he's asking something that a lot of people in the comments are asking as well, is he essentially just trying to kill himself, or is there still time to somewhat save himself and reverse some of the damage that he's done?
Well, I mean, you heard what I asked. I asked Bostin point blank. I said, if you find out, whatever the reason your kidney function was high because of the peptide you took, let's say it healed itself over the last couple of months and your levels have gone back to, quote, somewhat normal range. He goes, before I even got another word out, he was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm loading up a syringe of Tren and I'm going to take it immediately. So he's ready to go full force already. Like, he didn't learn his lesson at all. Like, there's no, even though he said, oh, this might be a message, he likes to do anabolics. And he even told me he was, I had him call Tom Prince and talk to Don Long, and he was asking them, can I take steroids while I'm on dialysis? I mean, he was already like planning what he's going to do. And he was worried that the dialysis machine might remove the steroids from his bloodstream. So I don't know. I love the guy. I tell him all the time. He's like a son to me. And you know what? But my dad taught me one thing. He said, look, you can't tell other people what to do and how to run their life. You can give them advice. You can try to guide them a little bit, but they ultimately have to make their own decisions. And so, like I said, I love Bostin, and he, if he wants to do self-destructive things to himself, then, he's got to live with the consequences. And he seems like he's fine with whatever the consequences are. So I don't know. I don't know what to tell anyone. I don't know what to say. I've never seen anything like him before in my life. I don't know what it's going to take for him to wake up, so to speak, but he likes to take steroids, I guess. That's the best answer I have.
Let's go to Piney the Destroyer. Dave, Jake here. I'm on a weight loss bodybuilding journey. I'm down from 419 pounds to 340 pounds. I'm wondering if you have any suggestions on caring for loose skin. Mine isn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be, but I want to do everything I can to care for it. Not to the point where surgery is required, but it's just enough to bug me.
Yeah, You know, when you're that heavy, I think, you know, he still has another 150 pounds probably to lose. He's going to have loose skin. There's no doubt about it in my mind. And you know what? Once you lose all the weight and you get down to the body weight that you're comfortable with and that you like, you're probably going to need some surgery to remove that skin. There's not, at this point, you've done a lot of damage when you're over 400 pounds to yourself, skin stretching wise, I'm talking about. So that's not going away. I don't know a single guy who's lost that much weight that didn't have a skin issue problem. Even if it wasn't major, they still needed surgery to remove the excess skin. So at this point, you're still losing weight. I wouldn't even worry about it at this point. Finish losing the weight you got to lose, and then go see a good plastic surgeon and talk to them about it. But more than likely, you're going to have that skin removed.
Let's go to Ahmed890. A question about Blessing Awodibu says that he's working with Chad Nichols. He asked specifically whether or not you think he could beat Nick Walker and some of the other, some of the bigger competitors in his pro debut. So I guess if you want to just handicap what you make of Blessing Awodibu as he looks to make his pro debut in 2021, and if you want to touch on, I guess, a comparison between he and Nick Walker.
Well, Blessing has got crazy genetics. He's got Kai Green-like genetics. Although he doesn't have the physique development of Kai Green, I think he has unlimited potential. I don't know what his, where his head's at, or how far he wants to go, or how big he wants to get. But I think structurally he's got a really good physique. He's got kind of like a Clarence DeVise / Kai Green / Bonac kind of look to him. And that's always going to do well on a pro stage if he gets crazy shredded, and he has enough muscle to stand up there. Now, Nick Walker is a mass monster. He'll never outsize Nick Walker. He might outclass him on stage because of his structure, but Nick Walker is going to be a very tough guy to beat moving forward because he's got huge, massive amounts of muscle on his body. He gets really, really hard, and it'll be a good comparison, but it's going to be like judging two different, Flex Wheeler versus, the Marcus Rule, so to speak. And I can only, whoever comes in at their best is going to win. That's the best thing I could say about the whole thing. But look, he's a younger guy. He's not super young, but he's a younger guy who has very good potential. We haven't really seen him on a pro stage. I know he was going to make his pro debut, and then he didn't because of the whole COVID thing. So it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the stage when he gets up there. I don't think he's there yet, but possibly by the end of this year, if he gets on stage, we might see, someone that's a new up-and-coming guy to look out for.
Let's go to Sicilian83. How long should I wait to train after done eating? They always say around 2 hours, but is there any science behind it?
No, I don't think. I used to eat McDonald's, and I would go to the gym and train like 45 minutes later. And I'm sure I didn't digest all the food by then. You could train with food in your stomach. It's as long as that's that. I wouldn't go to the gym. In other words, I wouldn't wake up in the morning, eat a huge heavy meal, and then go to the gym 10-20 minutes later, because now you still have nothing in your system really. But if you've already got a few meals in you, and then you go to the gym, after a half hour after eating or 20 minutes after eating, it's not a big deal. You might just have food in your stomach. I always drank a shake prior to going to the gym because it seemed like it digested way quicker, obviously, because it's all kind of pre-digested anyway. So I would have a Metrec shake and an Ultra Fuel back in the day, and then go train literally 10-15 minutes later. So, but that stuff was mostly in my system already because it didn't require digestion, or not a lot of digestion because it was a liquid already. If you're going to eat a solid meal, you probably should wait an hour. That's probably not a bad idea. But like I said, I used to go to McDonald's and I would be at the gym within 40 minutes, sometimes in training. So it really depends on how your body handles foods. I had the kind of stomach that if it was really spicy or the food had any kind of onions in it, it would destroy my, I hated training like that because I would burp it up. And that's why usually, I ate something bland. When I would go to McDonald's, I never ate the pickles and onions I always had them hold that off the burgers because that would come up on me. I'd be burping it up the whole workout. If I didn't do it, it wasn't so bad. So you got to figure out what works for you, what foods sit well in your stomach, and then, those are the foods you eat pre-workout. Once again, as long as it's not the first meal of the day, it doesn't really matter if the meal is completely digested or not.
Go to JJ Nasudi. Crab meat. Is crab meat a fine source of protein? how would you compare it to, say, tuna or chicken?
I didn't hear what the source was.
Crab meat.
Oh, crab meat. First of all, most crab meat is not really crab. It's mostly pollock, I think. And I know this because I have a good client of mine, a good friend, Aaron Brayton, who's works on a pollock fishing boat. And so all that imitation crab meat, which is what most people eat for as far as crab meat, is really fish. So it's actually a pretty good source of protein. It's probably better than crab meat because real crab meat is like, crabs are scavengers. They eat off the bottom of the ocean. So you don't want to be eating tons and tons of real crab meat. But the pollock that they kind of just put a little coloring in to make it look like it's crab meat is actually a pretty good source of protein, and it's pretty easily digestible. It's a white fish, and it kind of goes down real easy.
Let's go to Excellent 187. Did you, and I guess in general, an IFBB Pro, the general change in terms of rep ranges from contest to prep phase?
I didn't really change my rep ranges very much at all. I tried to lift as heavy as possible. Of course, as I got down to the last couple of weeks before a show, my weights got less, only because I just couldn't lift as much. So I would never jeopardize hurting myself. So if I bench pressed 405 for 4 to 6 reps in the off season on an incline, maybe I was down to like 315, for 4 to 6 reps because I just couldn't lift as much because my body weight was a lot lower, and obviously the resources I was eating were not as much. So I never lightened the weights. I just went by how my body felt, and I didn't worry if I got a little weaker because I knew that was part of the process. I didn't purposely lighten the weights and raise the reps because I don't believe that, remember, you're not doing weight training to burn fat. You're weight training to stimulate the muscle, right? So that you build bigger muscles back and or stimulate the muscle to maintain the size that you have, which is really what the goal is when you're training for a show. You try to maintain what you have so you don't lose muscle. And then you go and do your cardio and you diet and take fat burners to lose body fat. So you don't really want to try to combine the fat burning process with your weight training, workout, or what's going to happen invariably is you're going to lose muscle. Because if you're lifting lighter weights with higher reps, okay, you're not activating as many muscle fibers, you're not breaking them down, and so the body senses, well, we don't need this much muscle here because we're not, the load that we're giving the body is not as great. Even though you might be doing more reps, that's an endurance component of muscle, and that actually activates, the slow twitch fibers, and the slow twitch muscle fibers don't require more mass, they just require more oxygen carrying capacity, more mitochondria to oxidize fats better, and so you can lose muscle for sure.
Let's go to Guy MW. Dave, lately I'm hearing a lot about antioxidants, especially alpha lipoic acid, and forgive me if I butcher this, acetylcysteine. Your opinion about these two supplements?
I like lipoic acid, and the R form of R lipoic acid is really good. We actually have that in Lipolyze because they found that it actually helps stabilize the mitochondria. I think my son's calling me. He thinks he's calling the president. Lipoic acid stabilizes mitochondrial membranes and can act as an antioxidant. And if the mitochondria, Logan is persistent. If the mitochondria are more stable, they're going to oxidize fats better. N-acetylcysteine, is that what you said, I believe?
Yeah.
Now, N-acetylcysteine is a precursor, and that's NAC. That's a precursor to glutathione. I really wouldn't consider that a fat-burning agent. So I don't know if maybe they picked the wrong ingredient. Acetyl-L-carnitine, however, is usually a good combo to mix with our lipoic acid. Once again, we do that in Lipolyze because they seem to have a good synergism together to help optimize mitochondrial function. Remember, the mitochondria are the portion of the muscle cells that actually oxidize or burn fat. So if you're burning fat in your body, it's happening inside the mitochondria. If the mitochondria work better and they're more efficient, okay, they will burn more fat. They also have found a correlation between the health of the mitochondria and the length or your aging process, how you age. So you'll have less, negative effects of aging if your mitochondria work better, and that's why there's a lot of supplements out there like PQQ, R-lipoic acid, acetyl-L-carnitine. These supplements have anti-aging components to them as well because they help the mitochondria function more efficiently. The cells function more efficiently, and can put energy out better, you're going to be healthier. And that's just the way it works.
Let's go to Brooks Clark. How many weeks out do you usually implement KLEN? Any strategies to avoid building a tolerance?
You know, I've used KLEN. I use KLEN up to 16 to 18 weeks straight, no breaks. You know, I start low, 20 micrograms 2 times a day, and I'll build from there slowly, usually. What you have to understand with clenbuterol is that, just like with steroids, when you first take steroids, the first 4 to 6 weeks, you get really good, quick results because your androgen receptors there's a lot of receptors there to accept these steroids. And then what happens is when the body realizes how much steroid is present, oh my God, how much steroid is present, it down-regulates the receptors because the body doesn't want to be overstimulated. Same thing happens with clenbuterol. When you first start clenbuterol, okay, you have a lot of beta-2 receptors, okay, on your fat cells, which are, when they get activated, you mobilize fatty acids. When you put all this clenbuterol and you start overstimulating these receptors, the body pulls back the number of receptors. However, they don't all disappear. So while the clenbuterol is the most potent the first 2 to 4 weeks, it doesn't stop working. It just attenuates. It just lowers how potent it is because there's not as many receptors to stimulate. So what a lot of people think is, well, okay, the old Bill Phillips way, and this is where this all comes from, the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. I'll only take it 2 weeks in a row and then I'll go off 2 weeks to help the receptors come back. The problem is when you stop clenbuterol for 2 weeks, you kind of go backwards. Sometimes you can gain weight back while you're off of it. So what I found was that by staying on it continuously, even though it doesn't work as effectively as it did when you first started, you can increase the dosage and it will continue to work. Once again, it's not a miracle. So you're going to lose weight. It's going to maybe increase your fat loss, 10 to 15%. But that's significant if it's happening every single day. And so you have to understand that just because you're not getting, that's why when you first take clenbuterol, you get shaky a little bit. Sometimes you get a headache, and because it's working very potently on your body. And then after 2 weeks, it kind of, the headaches go away. You don't lose the shakiness. You can almost fall asleep after taking on clenbuterol. Doesn't mean it's not burning fat. It just means you're not over-responding to the drug, which is good because you don't want to have all those side effects the whole time you're taking them because it's a pain in the neck. Right? And that's the way most drugs work. They don't stop working, they just don't work as effectively. Now, with IGF-1, I always tell people to take a 2-week break off IGF-1 because the problem with IGF-1 receptors is that once they shut down, you just don't respond to the drug anymore. So it's a different type of a response curve. So I tell people, do 4 weeks of IGF-1, take 2 weeks off, and then do 4, but that's not affecting fat loss. It's more of a muscle building type of thing. So it's kind of like you're cycling an anabolic, you're doing this many weeks, 2 weeks off, this many weeks, 2 weeks. Different when we talk about beta receptors and on blood vessels and on the fat cells. But that's my experience. I've worked with clenbuterol for many, many years with a lot of different competitors, with myself as well. And I've seen how it works. I understand the dynamics of it. And that seems to be the best protocol that I've employed. If I thought it worked better by stopping and starting it, I would do that. I've tried it. I see a lot of back and forth. It's like you're taking 2 steps up, forward, 2 steps back, 2 steps forward, and you don't really go anywhere. So that's why I don't do that type of a protocol.
Time for 2-3 more questions. Let's go to Ivan Banyanats. What do you think about taking insulin before the cheat meal for better absorption of food? In theory,
oh, what? I said I want to just interrupt you for 1 second. I'm sorry. I wanted to make one more statement about clenbuterol. Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of fake clenbuterol lately, or mostly underdosed clenbuterol. So, on DavePalumbo.com, I sell these clenbuterol test kits. They're part of the whole Royd test, testing protocols. And you could buy these the great thing about the clenbuterol testing kits is that not only will it tell you if the clenbuterol is real, it will actually tell you how much clenbuterol is in your clenbuterol. So it'll tell you if it's weak, if it's full strength, if it's not. If you don't test your clenbuterol, you're crazy in today's marketplace because, like I said, I would say 75% of what's out there is at best underdosed and at worst nothing. So test your clenbuterol. The testers are really, they're like $20. I mean, it doesn't pay to use clenbuterol and not know if what you're using is good. Don't take it to chance. Don't trust anyone. People could tell you the stuff is great. Test it. It takes 2 seconds to test the stuff. It's so easy, and at least it'll give you peace of mind that what you're using is not a waste of time. Because I can't tell you how many people that I've worked with, and we get, 3-4 weeks out, and I'm like, this guy's just not getting any, or this girl's just not getting any leaner. I said, have you tested your clenbuterol? Because I tell all my clients to test their stuff. And they're like, well, I never got around to it. They buy a tester from me, and then they find out that they got like the super, super weak clenbuterol. Now, interestingly, think about this. If you get clenbuterol and you test it and it's weak, it's not like you've wasted your money completely, because you could actually double up the dosage or triple up the dosage depending on what the dose is in there. So it's nice to know what you got, and if it is underdosed, you can just kind of amp up how many you're taking. If it's at full strength, then great, If there's nothing in there, you can throw it in the garbage and you can go get some new stuff. So I just wanted to throw that in because I'm seeing a lot of fake stuff out there.
So let's go to Ivan Banning and asks, what do you think about taking insulin before a cheat meal for better absorption of food? In theory, insulin is not selective and will not transport the fats to fat stores, but all that food has to go somewhere anyways, whether you take insulin or not. So it sounds like a good idea to take it before a cheat meal.
I'll tell you why. I have people that I work with, and they run high fasting blood sugars in the morning, and I have them on long-acting insulin because, as you know, that's the protocol. If your 2-hour post-meal insulin, blood sugar levels are good under 130, you're good. But a lot of guys and girls run high fasting blood sugars, maybe because they're on GH, maybe just because they're getting older and they're not processing carbs as well. Whatever the case may be, those people are on a long-acting insulin. However, I have a lot of clients also who, when they eat a cheat meal, the next morning they wake up and their fasting sugar is super high, even though I kind of have it under control all other times. And so for those people, obviously they're not being able to process the huge carb load at that cheat meal. And for them, we're giving them a fast-acting insulin. I actually like Humulin or Novolin R, which is not super fast acting like Novolog or Humalog. It's got 2 peaks, and I'll tell you what's good about that. And first of all, the good thing is you can go to Walmart and buy it for $25, Novolin N, and that's great, a 10 cc bottle. But let's say you take 10 units of Humulin R or Novolin R, okay, before your cheat meal, like 10 minutes, 15 minutes before you eat it. You get an initial release of half of whatever you took. So 5 units is released, which covers 50 grams of carbs right off the bat. And then your body obviously will cover some of its own because you're still producing some insulin. But then 2 hours later, especially when you eat a cheat meal that has a lot of fat in it, you get a delayed peak, which is called the postprandial blood sugars. So 2 hours after you eat that meal, you'll get another spike in blood sugar. The good thing about Humulin or Novolin R is that it has a second peak. So 2 hours later, you get another release of the other 5 units of insulin, and that will keep that rise, that second rise of blood sugar down, and it'll help your body absorb it better. So depending on how many grams of carbs you eat, that will dictate how much insulin you do take, but you do get those 2 peaks, which is nice because, like I said, especially with a big cheat meal, you're going to get that second peak 2 hours after the meal.
Let's go to Ryan Smith. Does all gear use the same size gauge for the needle? Your recommendation. So I guess, different varieties and
right.
Different type. Yeah.
Yeah, all oil should, the small syringe really you should use, I think, is a 23 gauge. 22, 23 gauge is usually ideal. I've used 25 gauge needles for oil-based stuff, but it takes a really long time to push it through there. Now, if you're only taking a half a cc of something, that's, you can use an insulin pen for that matter. But if you're using, if you're putting 2-3 cc's into yourself, you want at least an inch and a half long needle, but you also want at least a 22 or 23 gauge. So when you push the plunger, it doesn't take 10 minutes to put it in. Because I'm telling you, I know this sounds ridiculous, but I used to do like lat injections or sometimes, tricep injections or shoulder. And nothing is worse than sitting there in the mirror pushing, and your finger feels like it's like the syringe thing is pushing through your finger, and you just want the stuff to go in so you can get the shot over with, and you can't, and you're cramping because you're big and it's like an uncomfortable position. Don't try to get away with syringes that are too small in diameter. Use at least a 22 or 23 gauge. You will thank me. I promise you, the stuff goes in so easy. And if you use a new needle tip, it's going to go into the muscle like butter. It's not going to hurt. You're going to be fine. don't be squeamish about it. If you stick a needle in your arm, it doesn't matter if you stick a 25 gauge, a 22, or 23 gauge. It's the same prick into your arm, or wherever you're putting it, glutes. But believe me, you do not want to sit there for 10 minutes pushing that plunger.
Before we ask the last question again, right now, speciesnutrition.com, our 2 new flavors of Amino Evolved, strawberry, watermelon, and lemon iced tea, free with purchase of $60 or more on the website. So again, those are the 2 new flavors. They just dropped today, and we're giving you the opportunity to try for free with $60 purchase on.
Tyler, which one did you like better? Did you like the strawberry watermelon, or did you like the tea?
I liked the pink lemonade. Was it that one?
No, those are the preworks. The Amino Evolved. Sorry, what were the flavors you liked? You like the tea. You like the tea. I think probably my kids like the strawberry watermelon better, but it depends. If you're an iced tea drinker, get the iced tea. If you're not, and you just want something that's going to taste really good that you can just drink all day long, that has a super great taste, strawberry watermelon's amazing.
Swole Ginger 29. What's the most money you ever made from a sponsorship?
I was getting $50,000 a year from Metrics for about 3 or 4 years. And you got to remember, this is back in the 90s. That's a lot. That was a lot of money back then, and I wasn't even a pro. I was actually making more than Ronnie was making, Ronnie Coleman, at the time, because Ronnie was working as a police officer, so they were giving him a very small salary for Metrics. He wasn't Mr. Olympia yet, of course. Once he became Mr. Olympia, everything changed. But yeah, so I mean, 50 grand was nice. I mean, I was living comfy. That was paying more than all my bills. And then everything I was making on the side, as far as writing for magazines and websites, and I was doing guest posings, and we really didn't charge for coaching back then, but I would do some seminars around the area. Everything else was like just gravy. I was making very good money because it was, like I said, it wasn't that expensive to live. I had bought a house. I had a very small mortgage on it. And it was like I said, it was very comfortable at that point. Probably 50 grand back in the 90s is probably equivalent to like over 100 grand today. So imagine if you made 100 grand a year today. I mean, that would be easy to live on as a bodybuilder. I mean, so that was, I got to thank Scott Connolly for that, because he was very generous. He probably would have given me more if I would have asked for more, but I didn't, because I didn't want to be greedy, and I respected him a lot, and I appreciated, the fact that he liked my company, and he thought I was smart, and that I can come around and do seminars with him, and I would represent him well at the booth. So that's how Scott and I became really good friends, through that, and of course I got to work with Jimmy Pellecchio, who was a good friend of mine. He had a contract there, probably was making around the same, and Jimmy Quinn was working there in the offices actually in California, and Frank Zeppi was there. So we were all kind of like, all New Yorkers, ironically enough, working for this California-based company. And it was that was the heyday back then. Scott liked to surround himself with all the big freaky guys, and that had, half a brain in their head, and that were unique, and it was a great experience back in the day. I really, really, really loved it. I mean, it was it was the dream company I wanted to work for. All I did was think about that, and it was amazing that it actually was able to manifest itself just from me wanting to be with that company.
Well, you mentioned Jimmy Pellecchio and After Hours. That's going to be on YouTube tonight on RxMuscle. Last week, obviously, we had quite the reaction. It's going to be essentially a part 2 to that, but, it's going to be a lot of fun. Obviously, a lot of opinions, a very, very heavily opinionated show, with, of course, today being Inauguration Day, but nonetheless, a lot of laughs, a lot of fun.
So I give you a good analogy, like when I'm taping the show here, I don't know if you used to watch All in the Family back in the day?
No.
Archie Bunker,
No, I know of it. I didn't watch it.
That's probably before your time, but there was a show,
yeah.
All in the Family, and Carol kind of played Archie Bunker, who was like the redneck, like just bigoted guy, and then he had this like son-in-law who was like a real liberal, guy who like just open mind, and loved everyone, and Greg Valentino and Romano are like the Archie Bunkers on this show, and I got Tyler sitting here who's like Mike. They called him Meathead. Archie used to call him the Meathead, and it's like that's the whole tone of the show. Like when they go crazy on politics, and I try to rein them in. These guys love talking politics. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And Mr. G somehow became all of a sudden a politician too. All they do is argue about politics and this and Trump and that one, and it's amazing. But I promise you guys there will be no more politics talking now that the inauguration is over. We're going to focus on just bodybuilding topics again.
So again, that episode of After Hours tonight on RxMuscle.com, shortly after this episode of Ask Dave goes up. Again, right now, strawberry, watermelon, lemon iced tea, the 2 new flavors of Amino Evolved, free with $60 purchase at Species Nutrition.
Make sure you add it to the cart, guys, or you will not get it. There's a pop-up. You got to pick the flavor and add it to the cart. Also, I got the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course coming up February 6th. I know a lot of people have been asking, when are you going to do another one? When are you going to do another one? We've already got like 10 signups, so don't wait. I mean, although now that it's online, really, there's no seating, things, but still, don't wait. Sign up. There's a link at my DavePalumbo.com website to sign up for the Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course online. So no matter where in the world you are, you can get it. Just sign up. The day of the course, you will be able to download the manual, and it's from 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I know people really enjoy the course, and it's a great experience. Make sure you bring all your questions, and you don't have to have any prior experience whatsoever. Just show up, and I teach it for the advanced. I teach it for the beginners. Everyone learns the same.
So that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. For Tyler and Dave, I'm Sadiq Baruki. See you next time.